Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing something a little bit different, and that's doing an unboxing and a product review of my latest purchase, which is the Craft or Logitech Craft keyboard. Now you may be wondering, why did I purchase this? Because it's not cheap, and we'll come to the price in a little bit. Well, I had a new computer built recently, and it's a Windows computer. I've been on Mac since around about 2007 and have used Mac since then. But to do all my photo, video editing for YouTube, I had a Windows computer built, a very fast one with 32 gigs of RAM, by my son. I'll put a link below to his channel if you're interested in learning more about computer builds. And I needed a new keyboard. Now I've got a Logitech mouse here, which I've had for over a year, and it is probably one of the best products I've bought. It has a couple of different scroll wheels, connects beautifully to Windows computer, and also you can press the buttons on here, will connect to a Mac computer as well, so you can flick between the two. That is probably one of the best bits of kit, apart from the computer, that I've ever bought. So I went for a wireless Logitech keyboard like this one here, and it has a touchpad, but the keys were awful. I mean, they're just lifeless and dead. Connects nicely to the computer because I have one of these little Logitech USB plug-in dongles, so the keyboard connects beautifully, but the keys are just dead. So next thing was a gaming keyboard, and this lights up, does all the bells and whistles, all the keys light up, but I don't know, I just didn't like it. The keys were very loud, a lot of travel. So when I had the computer built, I opted for a Microsoft keyboard like this, and this is a wide keyboard, as you can see, and I'm not a huge fan of wide keyboards. I like to keep everything sort of quite clean and crisp on the desk, although often it is a mess. And again, listen, you can hear it, just listen. It's dead, and each key is like pressing into rice pudding. So I went to my old faithful, my Apple keyboard, which I've had, must be probably 10 years, 9 years, and it is brilliant. It's my favourite keyboard out of all the keyboards I've got, and the keys are lovely. It's crisp, it's clean, it's neat. I can type fast on it, but the connection to the computer was intermittent, and you've got keys like the command key, which is applicable to the Mac, so it wasn't perfect for a Windows computer, and it was the intermittent connection that was annoying. So I saw a review of this, the Logitech Craft. It seemed to tick all the boxes in terms of it was wireless, slim, neat, quality, and as we see, it's got this feature of a button that you can turn, or knob that you can turn, which has features in various programs like Lightroom, Premiere Pro and Adobe Illustrator, 3 pieces of software that I use all the time. So let's open it. It's a nice quality solid box, and it feels quite heavy, so I'll be interested to see how heavy the keyboard actually is. Well, the lid's quite heavy, so some of the weight is certainly in the actual box itself. And keyboard itself is a good weight, feels very solid, feels heavy. We'll take the cover off in a moment. We've got the all-important dongle. I've already got one of those, so I'll keep that safe in another place in case I need a spare. A nice USB, I think it's a Type-C cable, and a quick start guide. So let's take off this cover. Oh, it's got a nice sound. If any of you guys are into ASMR, if you don't know what that is, look it up. This would be very good. And this looks and feels very impressive. It's got this dial here. Keys feel very similar to the Apple keyboard, in fact. And it's got this number pad. Don't necessarily need a number pad, but they didn't do one that came without the number pad, so I have to make do with that. And it's got all the keys here compatible with both Windows and Apple, I see, because you've got the command there, /alt. And what I like about this keyboard are these 3 keys here, 1, 2 and 3. So you can switch between connecting it to a Windows computer and an Apple computer also. So if you've got two computers on the go, a couple of monitors, you could easily switch between the two. So I do like that feature. And it feels nice. It feels very heavy, good quality. And there's a charging socket at the back there and this little slot here, which I'm not sure what that's for. Now it's got this rotating crown in the top left hand corner, which is context specific, which means it can do different functions depending on what software program you have open. In its default state, it just turns the volume up and down. So very similar to the Logitech MX Master mouse, you can program this knob to do different functions in different software programs. And apparently you can tap it to do something, turn it to change the volume. That's just in its default state on the normal home screen. And you can also click it.
And we're kind of working.
Oh, that plays. So that's a YouTube video. So
with what we got here, we don't.
Pressing it down plays the YouTube video, or plays, I guess, you know, if there's music playing at the time, you can pause it by pressing it down, adjust the volume by turning it, and also it has functions if you just touch it. So that's quite a cool little feature, which I know I'll find very useful in things like Premiere Pro, where you can scroll back and forth through the video clips, and also in things like Photoshop or Illustrator, you can have it doing various functions such as zooming in and out, which is a function I used to have on my Mac with MX Master. Doesn't seem to work as well on the Windows computer, so I'm hoping that will do that function, so I can zoom in and out to images that I'm manipulating in Illustrator especially. And you can control all these different functions in the Logitech Options app that you download to your computer, and you just open the options for the different software programs. So overall, at the moment, it looks pretty impressive. It's quite heavy. It's very solid, well made. I think it's metal or plastic. Feels like metal, but I suspect it probably is plastic. It's got these rubber strips at the bottom so it doesn't slip on the desk. It's got this charging slot there. And it's very thin. If you compare this to, say, a phone, you can see it's very similar thickness. Now, it's not cheap. This cost me £179, which is seems a crazy amount for a keyboard. However, when you consider, well, how often I use a keyboard, I'm often sat here at a desk working during the day for up to 8 hours or more on various things. So when you look at it from that point of view, the amount of use you get out of it is huge. And for me, I think it's worthwhile paying that extra to get something that's going to last, something that feels comfortable, something that's solid and is nice to work with. Because I find if a keyboard is nice to use, you tend to write more, you tend to be a bit more productive. And that's the theory anyway. And it looks very, I'd say, cool. I was going to say pretty, but I wouldn't say it's pretty, but it looks very cool, sleek, and a nice addition to the desktop. If you're interested in purchasing this, I'll leave a link below the video. So overall, I'd give that a thumbs up. Can't give it an overall score just yet until I've used it for a period of time, but it looks pretty good so far. So I thought I would just do this follow-up review of the Logitech keyboard, as I've been using it now for a few days and worked out what a lot of the functions do, and what I like about it and what I don't like about it. Well, what I don't like about it is quite easy to start off with, because there's actually nothing I don't like about this keyboard at the moment. It's heavy, so it remains in place on the table when you're typing. It's solid, so when you're pressing the keys, there's no flex in the keyboard. Each key press is nice and firm. Each key press feels nice and solid also. But I do like this feature of this button here that you can turn, you can press, and also activate functions by just touching it like so. So when you're in something like Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, when you click a particular tool, you can touch this and it will give you some options on how the tool behaves, or different options on how to change the tool and how it functions, which is very neat indeed. And also on Premiere Pro, I quite like this because you can quickly scroll through the timeline by turning it clockwise or anti-clockwise, which is a neat feature. In fact, I was going to buy a separate little module that had one of these things that you could turn and a couple of buttons that you could program. But with this keyboard, you wouldn't need that because you can easily scroll through the timeline quite quickly using this. Now, as I said earlier, it is an expensive keyboard, but I do believe you're actually paying for what you get. It's something that's very easy to type on. Each key has a small indentation so your fingers fit perfectly in there, and it's very easy to use. The keys are spaced apart quite nicely. I've got relatively largish hands, so with a keyboard that's a bit more compact, I find that I keep pressing the wrong key, but with this you can touch type very easily. So overall, I would give this a thumbs up. I'd give it a probably a 9 out of 10. 9 for the quality, the functions, the responsiveness of the keys, the way the keys feel, that useful feature of the turning knob, which has 3 properties. You can press it, so you can use it like a click on a mouse. You can turn it, and also you can just touch it to change its functions. And I'm only giving it 9 out of 10 because of the price. It is expensive, but when you consider the amount you're using it, it is good value for money, and I can imagine this lasting for years and years. My last Apple keyboard, which still functions perfectly well, I must have had over 10 years, and still it functions perfectly well. I've not had any issues with it at all, and I can imagine this is the same as well. I forgot to mention one other little feature that's quite neat, and that is the keys are backlit. But when you're not using the keyboard, the keys are off, and when you approach the keyboard, the lights come on, and that only appears to happen when the ambient light is low also. So during sort of daylight, when there's good light, the backlights don't come on, but when it gets a little bit darker and your hands approach the keyboard, the lights come on automatically, which is, it's not a deal breaker, but it's just one of those nice little extra details. So if you are in the market for something like this and you're looking for a good quality solid keyboard, then I can thoroughly recommend it, and as said earlier, I'll leave the link down below in the description. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. I hope you found it useful. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down, and also hit the subscribe button, smash the notification bell, and until next time, goodbye.